Have you ever felt overwhelmed about the prospect of picking which exercises to do in your gym workouts? Or have you ever found yourself wondering if the exercises that you have been doing are the ones that you should be doing to build tons of muscle? When it comes to picking exercises to do in your gym workouts, I know it can feel pretty complicated, especially nowadays with so many different fitness content creators and influencers, each stating sometimes contradictory and even divisive advice and opinions on the matter. Yep, it can feel pretty overwhelming. And that goes for both beginner lifters and even lifters who are more advanced, trying to get the most out of their workouts. In this video, while showing you footage from my latest full body gym workout, I'm going to do my best at sharing with you how you can go about picking your exercises in a way that's simple and straightforward. I'll share a few pointers on how to know if an exercise is ideal and a few pointers on how to know if an exercise is not ideal. Before we get started, if you find that the video is helpful, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. Okay, let's dive in. Right out of the gate here, I want to let you know that the process for picking your exercises doesn't need to be complicated or confusing. And you don't need to be a fitness expert to be able to pick the optimal movements. Most people probably only need a few or even just one exercise to build muscle effectively at any given time, believe it or not. One of the most important concepts I've learned about exercise selection is that it truly ought not to be complicated, and that the greatest success comes from just getting really good at the basics. That means that basic exercises are almost always the best bang for your buck, and aiming to get really good at doing them is where incredible muscle growth progress can be found. Okay, now let's get to my exercise selection pointers. The first pointer is that you want to make a point of selecting at least one exercise per muscle you want to build. It really helps to have a basic understanding of knowing which exercises target each muscle. Fortunately, all you need to do nowadays is search in Google, YouTube, or use some fitness app to get an answer for that. For most beginner lifters, really only one single exercise is needed to make progress in the early stages of lifting. But as you build a good initial foundation of muscle and want to continue building more muscle, it might help to add one or two more exercises per muscle. The muscles most worth including a second or third exercise are the ones that have multiple functions. For example, the hamstrings have two main functions, flexing the knee and extending the hip. To maximize muscle growth for that muscle, it probably is a good idea to include one exercise that flexes the knee, like a lying leg curl, and one that extends the hip, like a Romanian deadlift. It's worth noting that some exercises can hit many different muscles at once, and for that reason, a single exercise might be all you need to hit multiple muscles as a beginner lifter. An example might be something like doing a bent over dumbbell row, where the movement hits most of the back musculature, your traps, rear delts, rhomboids, lats, and spinal erectors. As you become more advanced, then it might be worth including multiple exercises to bias or isolate each of those individual muscles. To give you an idea of my own personal exercise selection variety, I include 1 to 3 exercises per muscle at any given time and just aim to make as much progress as I possibly can with the ones that I've chosen. The next exercise selection pointer is that the exercises you pick ought to not cause pain around your joints or connective tissue. Building muscle comes predominantly through targeting your muscles, after all, not your connective tissue. It's worth noting that oftentimes beginner lifters experience these kinds of pains not so much because the exercise isn't right for them, but because they aren't performing it yet with great technique and or are just lifting too heavy. Exercise technique is something that's learned over time, but even so, there are some movements that genuinely do seem to be more aggravating for certain individuals than others, and it's the least aggravating exercises that probably ought to be chosen. I use my own exercise selection as an example. For my chest, I find that barbell bench press is a great exercise. I like doing it, and I'm actually pretty strong at it. But even so, I've opted to not include it for the past few years because it leads me to run into elbow and or wrist pain as I progress with it. For that reason, I predominantly stick with dumbbell bench presses since I very rarely run into joint or connective tissue pain from doing them. The next pointer is one that might give you some peace of mind and clarity in knowing if you are or are not actually building muscle with your chosen exercises. It's simple. If you are gradually performing better over time, like by lifting heavier loads and or are doing more reps, all with good control and passable technique, then you're probably building muscle. Here's something that might be surprising about that. Having a strong mind-muscle connection might not actually be a requisite for building lots of muscle from any exercises. So you probably don't need to hyperfixate on if an exercise leaves you with a strong mind-muscle connection or not. I'll use my own experience as an example again. I built a lot of muscle from progressing with barbell back squats for years. Over the course of those years doing that exercise and getting stronger and stronger at it, I never really had the best mind-muscle connection with my lower body muscles like my quads and my glutes. Don't get me wrong, the reps were always tough, but I could never really feel my quads the same way I would when doing something like a leg press or a hack squat even. But despite not feeling my quads the same way, or even with a great mind-muscle connection, I still built them a great deal. Something I've found for myself is that the longer I've lifted weights, the more my personal preferences have changed and solidified as far as including exercises that leave me with a strong mind-muscle connection or not go. And so I think that that's the best advice or pointer I can give you. Focus more on picking exercises that you can clearly progress with, whether you feel a strong mind-muscle connection or not. And as you become a stronger, more experienced lifter, then you can become more nuanced with your exercise selection in regard to picking movements that leave you with a stronger mind-muscle connection or not. The last pointer is all about which exercises to avoid if you want to maximize muscle growth, that is. The first type of exercise to avoid is unstable surface exercises. Performing any exercise on an unstable surface, like doing squats standing on a Bosu ball, will hold your muscles back from producing as much force as they could if standing on a stable surface. If they produce less force, they will experience less tension, and if they experience less tension, they will grow less. Simple. The best way I've heard this explained is this. Imagine standing on an ice rink with your shoes on and winding up to jump as high as you can. Just envision that. In doing so, you'd be held back from jumping nearly as high compared to standing on the grass, right? Well, that same principle holds true when performing exercises on unstable surfaces. Now, the second exercise to potentially avoid are multi-phase movements, like bicep curl into an overhead press, where you curl the dumbbells, then clean them over your head and do an overhead press. In doing that, you hit multiple muscles, yes, but do so less efficiently than if you were to, say, do those movements separately. A full set of bicep curls to hit your biceps and a full set of shoulder presses or overhead presses to hit your delts. For people who lift weights to simply uphold a good foundation of strength, muscle, and mobility to maintain a long, healthy life, then these kinds of movements, they can be great. But if you're trying to maximize muscle growth, however, I would advise against doing them. And there you have it. Several points to help you with your exercise selection. They're all pretty basic, but at the end of the day, exercise selection doesn't need to be complicated. The first pointer is to pick at least one exercise per muscle you want to build. And as you become a more advanced lifter, you can consider adding more exercises. The second pointer is to refrain from including exercises that seem to cause or aggravate nagging pains around your joints or connective tissue. The third, pick movements that have a very high potential for you to progress with them over having a strong mind-muscle connection with them. As you become a more advanced lifter, you can consider being more nuanced with your exercise selection in picking exercises that not lead you to progressing far, but also in having a great mind muscle connection with them. And fourth, if you want to maximize muscle growth, avoid unstable surface exercises and multi-phase movements. At this point, I'd love your feedback. Drop your insights, questions, comments, and personal experiences in the comment section below. Before this video comes to a close, I want to quickly let you know about the work that I do. When I'm not making YouTube videos and making Instagram content, I work full-time as an online physique coach, where I help my clients to accomplish their muscle growth and fat loss goals by optimizing their approach to strength training and nutrition, and I coach them through the process. I've been doing this work for over 7 years and love helping my clients to not only transform their bodies, but ultimately their lives. If you've been considering getting some help with accomplishing your own physique goals, feel free to hit the link in the description below, where you can learn a little bit more about the work that I do and how I can help you. You can even use that link to schedule a free video consultation with me. If you have any questions about my coaching or how I can help you, just email me at sam@jadeathletics.ca. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.